Buy me time, brother.
Okay. Joe works for Launchable. He's going to talk a little bit about the emerging technologies that he's working with and product management and how that applies. So, I mean, I'm just going to let you take it away and talk about yourself a little bit.
I think,
How about present?
yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Too much of this.
Okay.
No such thing.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Joe Fernandez, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about product management with emerging technologies. So what I mean by this is AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, IoT, the Internet of Things, AI, right? So all these new technologies are coming out, but there's not really much discussion on managing that or owning up to it, right? So first of all, I just want to say thank you, Curtis and Michael, for inviting me to speak and organizing the event. So let's give a round of applause for these guys, as well as all the sponsors and everyone. And Teeps, Joseph, thank you. Thank
You
for-
specifically, Joseph. Thank you. Without Joseph, half of you wouldn't have chairs. And he's the one who has the answer for us when all the people come in tomorrow and don't recognize the chair configuration that they left tonight. I've been messing with that all day.
So, kind of a little bit about me and my background. So, I actually studied integrated business and technological entrepreneurship over at UCF. So, yeah, and I even have some IB professors here, so thank you for coming. So the integrated business program is a very unique program at UCF. It's very well-rounded and all-encompassing. It really focuses a lot on working with small groups and teams, which is perfect for technological entrepreneurship. So working with tech startups like Launchable and different organizations that are growing, that's kind of been a passion of mine. My family is all involved in tech. My dad, my mom, my sister. I didn't want to go that route. I didn't want to be a developer. I wanted to do the business side of it. Somehow I came back into tech, so it's good to be here. And so I started working over at Starter Studio. They have an ideation phase accelerator program, which is actually where I met Alfred, who is the CEO and founder of Launchable. Shortly after meeting, we started working a lot more together, and eventually I'm here now as one of the partners. And now I'm an organizer at Orlando Tech and Beer, so we're a local meetup. We're held every month. There's power lunches as well. Definitely look us up if you're interested in kind of connecting more with people in the community. So a little bit about Launchable. So we're based here in Orlando, Florida. This is where it's all started and it's all happened kind of since then. And we actually started with education. So Alfred was very adamant about pursuing the educational route and using augmented reality to create a multimodal learning environment for children. So imagine being able to read a book with augmented reality, right? The possibilities are endless. So since then, we've actually pivoted, and now we're focusing on enterprise applications of augmented reality. And what I mean by this is, big corporate companies want to use this technology, but they don't really know how. So that is kind of where we come in and help. And one of our, strategic, pinpoints is we don't just focus on novelty. So a lot of people, when you talk to them about AR, they think Pokemon Go or Snapchat face filters, right? And those have that novelty aspect to it. But now we're focusing more on the functionality. So how this technology should be used. The novelty is nice and it's good to introduce people to it, but the functionality is what's going to make it exponentially grow. And then we're looking for solutions that create operational efficiencies. So what I mean by this is something that's either increasing revenue, increasing profit, decreasing costs, things like that that are actually going to make an impact to a company. So here's an example that we took. So right here we have a dollar bill. There's nothing abnormal about it, it's just a regular dollar bill. And then you can see we have a video playing on that dollar bill. What we wanted to show with this, and this was one of the early ideas, is if we can take this technology and put it on the dollar bill, we can already now leverage the distribution channel of the US currency. And it will open people's mind up, right? So this is a dollar bill. There's nothing changed to it. What else could they do it to? Maybe they could do it to my magazine or a cover on a flyer or anything like that. So we wanted to show that we can take things that are already out in existence And we don't have to, recreate graphics or redistribute them. We can just take whatever's already out there, which has been a big, use case for a lot of our consumers. So here we have 3D models, and like I said, we did start with education. So here's Green Eggs and Ham's Dr. Seuss book, and don't worry, we brought some demos so you guys can see them after this. So we're actually taking 3D models and implementing them onto the book in accordance with the page. And lastly, we have these call to action buttons. So what this does is when a user is experiencing augmented reality, they are able to see these buttons and they can get more information directly from that. So this is something that we built, a demo that we built for Target, and it shows the 3D model of a Tide bottle, and then when you click the button, it brings you to the product page. So this is how augmented reality can be used in a more functional way. So how Launchable incorporates with enterprise. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of where product management lies on this. So you see the customer, you have business, and you have technology. And there's this nice sweet spot in the middle, and that is the product management. So on the technology aspect, to be a good product manager, you have to understand it. And it might be difficult because we are working with emerging technologies. So really understanding the technology, what's possible, how it's possible, the limitations, things like that. And the business aspect. So, how does this all work out for the business? What's the cost structure? What's the pricing model? What's the business model? Really getting an understanding of this so that you can pitch both sides to your customer, right? And then understanding your customer, being empathetic about what their needs are and, what their wants are, any kind of pains or gains that you can, either alleviate or create for them. You're going to have much more success if you understand your customer much better. So the first thing we always do is define AR. So when I ask people if they know what AR is, they always tell me, yes, it's where you put the goggles on and you're in that. And I'm like, well, no, hold on one second. That's VR, right? So there is a difference. AR is when you are putting the digital content in the environment around you. But VR is when you're submersing your perspective in a digital environment, and all of that is digital. So think of it as being like on the moon or seeing something jumping around on the table. So there is a difference, and we make sure that they're aware of that. Second thing is we show examples and use cases. So we're going to show our customers and our clients what the difference is on how different companies or different industries are using our technology. Some people have it and they want to use it for mailers. Right? Some people want to use it on their actual products in the store. Some people want to use it to make their store a very fun experience. And these are all great ways of using the technology. So we actually show them to kind of help enlighten them and help them create these ideas for themselves. The next thing, identify concerns of a client. So, we want to understand what their main pain points are. What is causing their problems, or what is decreasing their profit? Once we have an understanding on that, we can then figure out how to attack that best. The next, communicate possible solutions. And I'm not just saying tell someone this, okay? We are working with such new technology that we oftentimes have to either create an entire slideshow just for a client, or we'll create an entire demo so that client can bring it to their team and then talk about it there. So being able to actually communicate this on different levels, instead of just sending out an email or blasting, a newsletter towards someone, you really need to communicate what the possible solutions are and how they can help. And then the next, identify the value or the return on investment. This is a key component, with customers is, what are they getting out of this? These people really want to, gain this technology, but when you put a price tag on it that's, tens of thousands of dollars, well, they need to figure out how that is going to be justifiable. So you need to show them the possible solutions and the problems that they're having, and then identify the value that our solution can bring. So this all comes from what's called the design thinking process.
This is a blatant and selfish attempt to see how well we trained you, Joey. Have you and Alfred run into a situation during that diagnostic process, during that consultative process with a client or potential client, during which you discovered that the product or service that you're offering is not appropriate
Yes.
for that client, and if
Yes.
that happened, what did you do?
So I mean, what we can always do is help with either branding or marketing. So even if it's just at the bare minimum, like all of our business cards are augmentable, so that you can actually see a video of our company, and then use the buttons to click to either call us, email us, or go to our website. So at the bare minimum, there's typically something that we can do. But for instance, we had like a law firm that wanted to use AR. So it was like how, and like that's something that you can get together and like definitely have these ideas and brainstorm around. But that's a great question. There are some situations where it's like, we can't think of any at the moment, but we'll get back to you kind of thing. So a little bit about this. So empathize, right? Learn about the audience. Study them, get to know them, get to know who they're, who they're selling to, right? And define, sharpen these key questions. Make sure that you have an understanding, and that anything that you don't understand, that you have the right questions to gain that understanding. Ideate, brainstorm, and create solutions. Get multiple people in from different angles, right? So get developers and business strategists and end users and customers, Get everyone together and kind of figure out what they would want and how this could benefit. Prototype. This is another one that I mentioned earlier. Build representations of one or more ideas. So we don't just bring one demo. We bring all of our demos to show how we're using this technology to hit multiple industries. And then test. Validate these ideas. Talk to them, talk to the consumers, see if they liked it, see if it helped. And if it didn't, figure out why, right? And then come back and do it again. And you just keep running through this process until you have the perfect product. So common procedures and obstacles. So this is going to be a little bit about kind of what happens to us, right? And kind of what we have to deal with. So I always do our industry and market research, no matter what. If we're going to a retailer, I am looking up on IBIS World and figuring out what's going on in the industry. Who has the most market share? Why? What's the news, and what have they been doing recently? Has that been helping them or hurting them? Figuring this stuff out gives you a better understanding of your client and their needs and their pains. We actually had a client from the restaurant industry who was one of the top, holders of market share. And we figured out that the amount of revenue that was going towards labor costs was above 30%. So if we could lower the labor costs, this could be an opportunity for them to make more revenue, more profit. And for that specific case, we actually had the idea of using a sommelier. So they wanted to augment off their wine bottles, which was one of the demos that you showed at the first product tank. So he showed a video of zombies coming out of the 19 Crimes wine bottle, right? Which is cool. Again, that's focusing on novelty. We're going for novelty and functionality. So if you could have like a sommelier, like yourself, Jesse, talking about the wine and providing the user more detail about the wine, standardize the experience to the highest level, and creating this new way that they can actually use this experience to learn from it. Well, now you can do that while the server is running around cleaning tables, watering glasses of water and doing all these other things, and that should help lower labor.
Can I do a quick poll and just ask the room, if you knew that you could buy a wine that you were just curious about, but knowing that it would come packaged with her giving her thing, how many of you would be more inclined to buy one? Just an idea, Josie.
I'll give you my card.
I mean, model her investing in she
So, anyways, do your market research too. Don't just look at the industry. Look at the competitors. Do a SWOT analysis. Figure out exactly, what their pain points are, and that goes back to the empathize part. Underutilized technology. This is another big one, right? So, if you want to use the technology and you just want to have this novelty aspect, like the 19 Crimes, but you don't want to resell a bottle of wine, that doesn't make sense to us at Launchable. We're doing this so that you can fully utilize this technology, even if it's something like social media share. So that was something that we recently just like pretty much discovered that it was a big deal for a lot of our clients was to being able to take pictures of these augmented pieces and then share them to social media, but then also auto-populating hashtags. So what we're doing is we're creating this, basically a mechanism for social influencers. Now you can take pictures of the product, share it to your social media with these specific hashtags. And that the marketing departments for a lot of these companies, they love that. Insufficient content, that's another big problem. How many of you guys have business cards? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you with business cards have a specific video about your company or about you that you could put onto that business card if we were to augment it?
You made it already.
Yeah. So it's much less people have that ability to have that content. So that's something that we've foreseen, and that's something that we need to be able to deal with, right? So whether it's we can do it in-house with our team, or we have strategic partners in place where they can either make 3D content or animations or 2D videos. This is all something that we think ahead of, so that when time comes, they're not choking on the deal because of insufficient content. And then generate value for the end user. So the people who are actually using this application, they need to be able to gain the value. None of you guys would want to use AR if all you could see were advertisements. There needs to be something that you could get out of it, right? So even if it's, you see an advertisement, but here's a coupon, right? Click this button, it'll bring you to this page. Doing that and then being able to track that data and then use it for marketing materials, very important. And then ensure quality and guidance. This is emerging technology. A lot of these people don't know anything about it or how to operate with it. So it's not easy for them to figure out what happens if something goes bad. Something that we do at Launchable is, a lot of our clients, when we sign a year licensing agreement, what we do is we, guarantee that it will work, number one, and if there's a problem, we'll fix it right away. But number two is we do a lot of consulting services. So, explain to companies how they can use augmented reality the best way possible so they can get that highest ROI. That's something that is valuable to them, right? There's no point of buying this technology and then not being able to use it to the full ability. So the bell curve for emerging technology. We have the standard bell curve, but the idea is we're probably, in the essence of emerging technology, probably around here, right? Product management is what's going to get you to jump that chasm and to get over that. A lot of companies die out right there. They either can't get past early adopters or anything like that, the chasm is a big difficulty for a lot of people. But hopefully today, with kind of what I'm going over, a lot of us will be able to jump that chasm. Some key takeaways. So strategic thinking. Think ahead and think like you're in other people's shoes. Be the customer. Be the end user. Be the buyer. Be the developer. Really get a really good understanding of everyone's roles. Take in as much information as possible. Do your research. Do your homework. Put that together and figure out how to strategically use this technology to the best ability. Know and love the tech. You want to meet someone who's trying to, basically sell you emerging technology, but you don't want them to not love it. Because if they don't love it, then you're not going to love it. I think augmented reality is a very cool thing. I think it's new. The first time I had really seen it, was when I met Alfred. And, I've learned a lot about it. I've put in a lot of hours for it because I'm passionate about it. That's why I'm here speaking about it today. So definitely, have that enthusiasm behind the tech. And communicate and collaborate. And I don't just mean internally. I'm talking about externally and internally. So, talk with your team members. Talk with the clients. Talk with the end users. Get a good understanding and communicate the needs and kind of how you can actually use this technology to the best ability. I don't know all the answers. Alfred doesn't know all the answers. But we might have bits and pieces where our team and their team, whoever our client is, can put those pieces together to actually create something of value. And thank you, everyone. My name is Joe Fernandez. If anyone has questions or comments, feel free to ask.
Have you guys talked to IKEA yet?
To IKEA?
Yeah.
I believe they're already using the technology. I don't necessarily, they wouldn't, like, if they're already using it, I'm sure they already have their own, I guess, service provider.
Take it over.
Yeah. But, you know, that's a great example of a company that is using AR strategically, right? Not just a novelty sense. You know, now with the idea of that you can put furniture in places, but the other thing is, you know, how do you use that technology on a daily basis? How do you create something that, you know, once I buy my living room set, I'll just delete the app, right? Potentially. This is something that like we deal with is, you know, kind of how do you make this, you know, important enough for people to keep.
I like that you said it. It's like dating apps. It's like success is failure, because as soon as if you succeed, you delete the app. I wish you better. Can you show something cool that the Watchable's done?
Yeah, we took some demos, right?
Just commandeer Curtis's laptop unless you have it.
I mean, we can pass the demo around, perhaps.
You want me to?
Joey, if you put the IB logo on the screen, can you do
Yeah,
that on the screen
yeah.
with your phone?
What side do you want to do?
Just look up
See, what I thought the IKEA app was it tells you how to put the damn thing together.
Why don't they do that?
That's a good idea.
There you go. All right, we're gonna put it to the test.
That's the joke, yes.
So, Professor, this is the logo for your school?
Yes, it is. However, we are not allowed by UCF Media to use the word logo. It is our graphic.
It's your mark, your graphic, your icon. Okay. So, if this app works, what will we see?
I'm not going to ruin the surprise.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Might not have updated. I need to do it on my phone.
David's is working.
Is it?
Is it? What's it doing?
Do we all just download the app and then?
Yeah, so if you guys want, you can try downloading the app. I have business cards if you want to get in contact me or just see it. You can kind of just check that out. So here's kind of an example.
Oh, nice.
So we took their logo, and I did this for them kind of as, I was just like, look, here's kind of what's possible. And they had content, right? So they had this video. So I was actually able to do this pretty quickly, actually. And the idea is, you know, you can kind of find out more information about whatever you're looking at, right? And the idea is to add value. And what brings value to information? You know, is it current? Is it recent? Is it accurate? You know, these are all the things that we're trying to improve with augmented reality.
Josh, I have a question for you. So I know, like, it seems like a lot of this is tailored towards like product management, and something that I think I struggle with is finding, I guess, the disconnect between. You talked about like conversations and communications between your customers, and then being able to communicate the concerns back to your team and be able to strategize solutions and solving them. So like, I was curious if like there was any, I don't know, particular piece that's difficult to communicate from customers to team, or like where what's like best used, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so sometimes the with what we're doing, if a customer has like some out of this world kind of idea and they want to see it in augmented reality, you know, that's something where we'd probably want to bring in a developer, right, and have that you know, expert, the subject matter expert, and the client with the needs and the wants, and then, you know, usually I'm just there to kind of like guide. So if our developer's like, what's he talking about, dude? You know, I'm like, all right, this is what he wants to do, something similar to that. You know, and then if the developer starts saying something to the client, they're just like, like, what's he talking about? Like, you know, I'm kind of trying to mediate that as best as I can. But yeah, I mean, that's a good question. There are some times where, you know, it's a little difficult to kind of communicate, but, you know, that's kind of where we use a lot of examples to kind of like get the message through a little bit clearer.
I gotcha. Yeah, I feel like using examples and demonstrations is definitely gotta be a great way to bridge that gap and put it in someone's hand.
Yeah,
This is
definitely.
it.
We've got a question over here too.
Quick question, just to help me understand AR a little bit more. So when you're pointing the device to the graphic itself, it is actually downloading the content from the web and processing it at that moment and showing it to you, right?
Yeah,
More or less.
so we have how we are doing it is we have two different clouds set up. One is for targets, and targets are, you know, like this would be a target, the face of the dollar bill is a target, and then the other cloud has the content, whether it's a 3D model or a video or anything like that. It's associating the target with the content, and then it's simultaneously transposing it.
So does that mean that, let's say, for example, to keep it relevant, something that you can see more than once, not just you're done with it once after the first time. Let's say for this month, you have certain type of content that is being consumed by whatever, and then next month, that content could be different.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that I was trying to like elaborating on a little bit is, you know, what creates value. So is it current? You know, one of the things that we did was, you know, we're pushing campaigns on dollar bills. So we're actually using, you know, look at the dollar bill. We have a special for $1. Get it? Like you already have it. It's in your hand. You know, all you have to do is kind of like follow these instructions. It's going to go through it. So we can actually change that pretty quickly, and we're doing that through cloud. So
And can that also be, I'm just thinking deeper about this, can that also be controlled by, let's say, for example, IP address, the content itself. Let's say Orlando is the dollar, right?
Mhm.
So you download anything that's for tourists about the parks. But then if you're in North Carolina, now you have the mountains.
yeah,
But
so
it's the same. It's the same.
It is possible to use like geofencing or geolocation
Right.
to basically say like you will pull content from this bucket if you're in this area. If you're in another area, well now you're gonna get different content.
I hadn't really thought about it that deep into the many uses and what you can do with it.
Yeah.
This
No,
is great.
there's a lot of uses, and you know a lot of the things that have been popular times up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we could go on
Anyways.
and on.